Hello, welcome to Critical Joke Theory with your host, G.D. Fenderson, Certified Forensic Humorist. Now with new joke technology. Hi, I'm G.D. Fenderson, Certified Forensic Humorist at large, but I'm losing weight. Welcome to Critical Joke Theory, episode 99. Now with new joke technology and 13% more snark, and still open caption for the humor impaired. George Bell, a former Harlem Globetrotter, has died. That's not George Bell. That's Reese Goose Tatum. You racist fuck. I know you think all Globetrotters look alike. Bell was recognized by Guinness World Records as the tallest man in America at a towering 7 foot 8 inches. He was 67 years of age when he died. Bell passed away at his home in Durham, North Carolina. The cause and date of his death is not clear. How does a 7 foot 8 inch man die without someone noticing? I suppose if he were standing when he became brain dead, people under 6 feet might not notice for a while. But surely someone would have heard him hit the ground when he fell. It's not like he lived in a forest. Bell was born in 1957 in Portsmouth and was declared the tallest man in America in 2007, but was dethroned by Igor Kovkovinsky, who edged Bell out by less than half an inch. Bell reclaimed the title when Vovkovinsky mysteriously died in 2021. Vovkovinsky's cause of death was from excessive foot trauma when someone tried to remove 3/4 of an inch from his feet. Bell played basketball at Morris Brown College and Biola University before a stint with the Harlem Globetrotters. You never learn. That's Wilt Chamberlain. Bell also appeared in American Horror Story and in AMC's Freak Show. I think he's the tall one in the back. Rest in peace, George. You've reached such great heights in your life. Former Green Bay Packers wide receiver who was on the Packers team that won the first 2 Super Bowls, Bob Long, died Sunday at his home in Brookfield. Long was 83 years of age. Cause of death has not yet been made clear. However, they have ruled out SIDS. Long, who was raised in Pittsburgh, attended Wichita State University, where he lettered 3 years in basketball. When his eligibility ran out, he switched to football for the 1963 season. His performance was good enough to get him drafted by 2 professional teams, the Packers in the NFL and the Chargers in the AFL. He signed with the Packers for $5,000 a season, or what today's NFL players would find in their sofa cushions. Long remained in Wisconsin after his NFL career, where he was a Pizza Hut franchisee. He brought the first Pizza Hut to Sheboygan in summer of 1969 and the first case of crust-induced diabetes in 1970. He developed more than 60 franchises and at one time operated 24 stores. He also was involved in many charities, including Special Olympics, or what Trump calls DEI sports. He was also involved in task force against family violence and Alzheimer's research, but he won't be remembered for Alzheimer's research, especially by the people with Alzheimer's. Rest in peace, Bob. May you find peace in that great big Pizza Hut, hike in the sky. Lenny Schultz, the high-energy comedian known for his wild stage antics, unconventional props, and physical humor, has died at the age of 91. His son, Mark Schultz, confirmed that he passed away on Sunday of natural causes at his home in Delray Beach, Florida, which is what you'd expect his lone heir to say. Schultz made a name for himself with an unpredictable performance style that involved food, props, and absurdist routines, often leaving audiences in hysterics. His influence could be seen in later comics such as Robin Williams, Gallagher, Carrot Top, David Letterman, and Sam Kinison. Sorry, wrong Kinison photo. Fans would regularly chant, "Go crazy, Lenny," during his shows, a phrase that encapsulated his comedic philosophy. Born in Bronx on December 13, 1933, Schultz originally pursued a career in baseball and was offered a minor league contract with the New York Yankees. A shoulder injury derailed that path, leading him to earn a bachelor's degree from New York, NYU, and a master's in education from Hunter College, not Hunter Biden College. That's a different skill set. After serving in the U.S. Army, he became a gym teacher in Queens in 1955, a job he held for more than a decade, even as his comedy career gained traction. He'd perform comedy at night and teach during the day. According to Wikipedia, 4 months after his first comedy open mic, he was appearing on TV on The Merv Griffin Show, and Schultz was active in comedy until 2025. If that is true, then what the fuck? He had more television appearances in his first year of comedy than most comedians have in their whole lives. And he only had 3 networks to choose from. Nowadays, we have 1 network per comedian. What the fuck? Rest in peace, Lenny. Really. Doing comedy at age 91? Give it a rest, Lenny. Folk rock singer Jesse Colin Young of the Youngbloods died from a heart attack. He was 78. According to the Aiken County Coroner's Office in South Carolina, the Youngbloods singer died from cardiac complications of atherosclerotic and hypertensive cardiovascular disease. I almost died just having those words in my mouth. I can't imagine it in my heart. Young had been a solo artist with 2 albums released before he joined forces with Jerry Corbett, Lowell Banana Levenger, and drummer Joe Bauer to form Youngbloods. Youngbloods released a cover of Chet Power's Get Together in 1967, which peaked at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 2 years later. Most people know the Youngbloods for Get Together. However, they had other hits. So I'm told. Rest in peace, Jesse. May your music come out of the darkness, and into the sunlight. Former NFL wide receiver Paul Flatley died Saturday at age 84. An obituary states that Flatley died with his family by his side and sepsis inside. On Sunday, the Minnesota Vikings mourned the loss of Flatley, the 1963 NFL Rookie of the Year, who played 5 seasons in Minnesota before spending 3 years with the Atlanta Falcons. Flatley registered 4,905 yards and 24 touchdowns over his NFL career. Drafted by the Vikings and AFL's Denver Broncos out of Northwestern, he broke Jerry Reckhouse' franchise record when tallying 51 receptions in his first year with Minnesota. This was back when if there was no crime scene tape, then there was no foul. In 1965, Flatley set career highs with 896 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. He made his first Pro Bowl the following year. Flatley collected 1,683 receiving yards at Atlanta from 1968 to 1970. He later served as a colored commentator for the University of Minnesota's football team. That can't be right. Colored commentator? It must either be a misspelling or it was the 70s. It was the 70s. Rest in peace, Paul. I'm sure that you were worth every penny that you were paid. Literally pennies per yard. Republican Justin Eichhorn, within hours of abandoning his seat in the state Senate, was scheduled to appear in federal court on allegations that he solicited prostitution from a Bloomington police detective posing as a 17-year-old girl. I did say Republican. The 40-year-old husband and father of 4 from Grand Rapids was charged Wednesday in U.S. District Court with attempted coercion and enticement of a minor. And Trump didn't tap him for a cabinet position? Before Judge Shannon Elkins, the court is likely to take up what amount of bail, if any, Eichhorn would need to post in order to be released from jail as the case proceeds, and who will be his attorney. Remember that this is a federal court, so Trump can have this case dismissed and Eichhorn can be pardoned before he sees not one so lonely night in prison. Eichhorn resigned from the state Senate late Thursday morning. He submitted his letter of resignation effective immediately, less than an hour before the Senate was set to take an unprecedented vote to expel him from the chamber. Senate Republicans were ready to bring forward the motion, and DFLers, that's the Democratic Farmer Labor Party, said they would join them in voting for Eichhorn's expulsion. And I'm sure that the DFL was really glad to help. Eichhorn was arrested Monday as part of an undercover operation in Bloomington that also snared 6 other men who shared Eichhorn's family values. I said he was Republican, right? Okay. He was initially charged in Hennepin County District Court with a felony count of soliciting prostitution from a minor over the age of 16. That criminal complaint alleged he showed up with a condom and enough cash to pay for what he believed would be 30 minutes of sex and a lifetime of being on the sex registry. Amid tears and grins, 175 Ukrainian soldiers returned home on March 19th, some of whom had been held in Russian prisons for nearly 3 years. Ukraine returned an equal number of Russian POWs in a deal worked out between Pretend-a-lot Donald Trump and Russian dictator Vladimir Putin by phone. Trump and Putin's by phone describes their sub-dom relationship from top to bottom, Trump being the bottom in more ways than one. An additional 22 gravely wounded Ukrainian soldiers were returned by Russia in what is described as a goodwill gesture. But in actuality, Putin needs those rooms for Russian dissidents. Russian drone strikes targeted civilian infrastructure in the Ukrainian Black Sea port of Odessa, leaving at least 3 people injured and several districts of the city battling power cuts, while Czech President Petr Pavel was visiting for talks with officials. In Putin's mind, a ceasefire is when Ukrainians still sees hope and Putin sees fire. Donald Trump is said to be upping his bid to seize control of nuclear plants in Ukraine by adding the demand to the mineral deal waiting to be signed with Kyiv. You cannot have a deal with Trump because if you give him an inch, then his penis will be 2 inches. President Zelensky had said he was ready to sign the previous agreement, but the U.S. is now expanding its economic demands, the Financial Times reported, citing Ukrainian officials. A deal is only as good as the dealers, and Trump deals in lies. During Trump's and Putin's by-phone deal, Trump and Putin discussed how they should divide up Ukraine's assets. A Kremlin spokesperson said that the world has become safer under Putin and Trump's leadership. Israel launched a wave of airstrikes across the Gaza Strip early Tuesday, March 18th, saying it was hitting Hamas targets in its heaviest assault in the territory since a ceasefire took effect in January. Of course, any target is a Hamas target. Ain't no airstrike like an Israel airstrike because Israel airstrikes don't stop. Gaza's health ministry said the strikes killed at least 200 people. Khalil Degran, a spokesperson for the ministry based at the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in central Gaza, provided the updated figure on Tuesday. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he had ordered the strikes because of a lack of progress in ongoing talks to extend the ceasefire. It was not immediately clear if the operation was a one-time pressure tactic or if the 17-month-old war was being resumed altogether.
The 17-month-old war was being resumed.
The Israeli military expanded the ground offensive in Gaza and killed at least 80 Palestinians in a new wave of strikes Thursday, according to Gaza health officials. Hamas fired its first rockets since Israel broke a recent ceasefire and resumed heavy airstrikes on Gaza this week. Scenes that were familiar from earlier in the war once again returned to Gaza. Israeli evacuation orders, partial prohibitions on movement between North and South Gaza, and airstrikes that have killed a total of more than 500 people, including more than 200 children, over the last several days, according to Gaza health officials. Israel said the return to war is in order to restore peace to Gaza and Gaza to pieces. Hamas wants the original agreement to proceed, whereby it releases all living hostages and Israel agrees to permanently end the war, which Israel's far-right government refuses to do. Trump wants the fighting to stop so that he can start building his Trump golf course. The holes are already in the ground. A federal judge Tuesday blocked President Donald Trump's executive order banning transgender people from enlisting or serving in the military. U.S. District Judge Ann Reyes of Washington, D.C. ruled that the ban violates the Equal Protection Clause because it discriminates based on transgender status and sex. Reyes said, quote, "Indeed, the cruel irony is that thousands of transgender service members have sacrificed, some risking their lives, to ensure for others the very equal protection rights the military ban seeks to deny them," close quote. How many times do we have to do this? We did it with blacks. We did it with women. The blacks had to have their own military. Remember the Tuskegee Airmen? Women had to have the whacks and the waves, seen here going pew pew, pew 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 pew. I guess we can give transgender people their own branch of the military. How does the Trans Force sound? Or Trans Corps? How does that sound? Okay, these are actual soldiers performing in drag. I know that drag and trans are not the same thing. Save your comments for the Trump administration. They're the ones doing all the damage. Reyes delayed the effect of her preliminary injunction until Friday to give the administration time to appeal it. She added in her order that the government, quote, "could have crafted a policy that balances the nation's need for a prepared military and Americans' right to equal protection," close quote. Quote, "They still can," she said. Quote, "The military ban, however, is not that policy. The court therefore must act to uphold the equal protection rights that the military defends every day," close quote. Of course, Trump appealed it, saying that it was not based on sex, but on fitness. And as of Friday, they lost the appeal with the judge stating that the Trump people was trying to gaslight the court. The judge noted that the administration called it a transgender ban in the press. Trump is doing so bad in the courts. Maybe he should switch to leaders. Leaders are slightly smaller than courts, and maybe Trump could get a better grip on things on account of his widow hands. Chief Justice John Roberts, seen here hoping Trump doesn't get mad at him, pushed back on convicted felon, unregistered sex offender, public housing resident Donald Trump's escalating rhetoric against the federal judiciary on Tuesday in a highly unusual statement that appeared to be aimed at Donald Trump's call to impeach judges who rule against him. Quote, "For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision," close quote. Roberts said in a statement released by the Supreme Court. Quote, "The normal appellate review process exists for that reason," close quote. Donald Trump has reacted to the rebuke from Supreme Court Justice John Roberts after the convicted felon called for a judge who ruled against him in a deportation case to be impeached. Speaking to Fox News' Laura Ingraham on Tuesday, Trump noted that Roberts did not mention him by name in his rare public statement, while doubling down on his attacks against U.S. District Judge James Boasberg. This is not the first time Trump has dissed a federal judge, and Roberts, for the most part, remained silent. So why speak out now? Roberts is afraid. Roberts and his supremely idiotic cohorts emboldened Trump with their rulings, all but making him a king. And Trump is not just moving all over the board, he is traipsing on red squares too, as if Russia didn't have enough influence in our government. NASA astronauts Nick Hogg, Sonny Williams, Butch Wilmore, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov landed in a SpaceX Dragon spacecraft in the water off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida on March 18, 2025. Off the coast of Tallahassee is pussy speak for Gulf of Mexico. Hogg, Gorbanov, Williams, and Wilmore returned from a long-duration science expedition aboard the International Space Station. Now, for whatever reason, this is hailed as a victory for Musk. This is why our government is paying Musk billions and billions of dollars and not giving the money to me. This is the deal. We use SpaceX, and you get people back safely. Most reports are skipping over the fact that it was supposed to be a 10-day mission that turned into a record-breaking mission of 286 days. The praise that we are heaping on NASA is like giving a TV show to a bunch of castaways because their 3-hour tour turned into 3 years. Who would do that? And finally, my I Said-It-Torial. Here's the problem with what I do on Critical Joke Theory. I hate saying things that are not true because at the end of the day, a person is only as good as their word, and my word is important to me, even in my attempts at humor. When I do the obituaries, if a person died on Monday, chances are they would still be dead on Friday or Saturday or whenever you see this. But when I cover a story involving the Trump Musk administration, the same rule seldom applies. That's because most of what they do is either extremely unpopular, causing millions of people to protest, and then the administration takes back the motion, or is illegal and can be overturned by the courts, or it is purely symbolic and is only meant as a PR stunt. That's public relation, not Puerto Rican. With Trump Musk, one can never be too sure. For example, it was reported on Wednesday that Musk was to be briefed at the Pentagon about our war plans should we have one with China. Once Trump found out that the media knew about it on Thursday, he canceled the operations briefing on Friday, not the meeting. Trump says he didn't know about the briefing until Thursday. Either Trump is lying again, that's bad, okay? Or Musk can be briefed on these matters without Trump's knowledge. That's worse, okay? Trump and Musk are wreaking so much havoc that it is hard to actually capture all of the minutiae. So I will try to focus on the through lines. The big picture. The big picture is Project 2025 and the completion of it. Officially, Project 2025 is a roadmap for Trump to downsize the federal government and fundamentally change how it works, including the tax system, immigration enforcement, social welfare programs, and energy policy, particularly those designed to address climate change. Actually, Project 2025 is a scheme or scam to not just downsize the government, but to wreck it and rob it. To make the government services so horrible that the public will accept the privatization of it, and then corporations can get fatter, providing the same services for a multitude of the costs. Take Social Security, and take it while you can, before Trump fucks it up. The workforce has been cut by 12%. This will slow down and hinder their ability to perform even the simplest of tasks like taking phone calls to answer questions. Who's going to take the calls from the people who will have their Social Security check stopped? Well, according to Secretary Howard Lutnick, that's part of the plan.
Let's say Social Security didn't send out their checks this month. My mother-in-law, who's 94, she wouldn't call and complain. She just wouldn't. She thinks something got messed up, and she'll get it next month.
Yeah.
A fraudster always makes the loudest noise, screaming, yelling, and complaining.
That's right. Only the fraudsters are going to be calling to complain. Fraudsters like 82-year-old Ned Johnson in Seattle, who was declared dead by the U.S. Social Security and deprived of his benefits. Ned Johnson's wife Pam received a letter from the bank offering condolences on her husband's death. The letter went on to explain that the bank had deducted the equivalent of 2 months of Social Security payments from the Johnsons' account to return to the Social Security agency. $5,201 for December 2024 and January 2025. For the record, Ned's not dead. Dun 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 dun. That's what I said. Dun 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 dun. And they're cutting funding to the NOAA. And as of this week, the National Weather Service has stopped sending weather balloons up in Alaska, New York, Maine, Omaha, Nebraska, Rapid City, South Dakota, and balloon launches have been cut back to once a day in Aberdeen, South Dakota, Gaylord, Michigan, Grand Junction, Colorado, Green Bay, Wisconsin, North Platte, Nebraska, and Riverton, Wyoming. All of Alaska's U.S. forest workers at the visitor center have been fired except for one. Alaska cruise season begins next month. Who's going to guide all of those tourists through the forest and show all of them where to spend their dollars? I guess Sarah Palin is looking for work. Trump also signed an executive order in an attempt to dismantle the Department of Education, cutting off funding for high-speed internet access to public libraries and summer reading programs, and more. Plus, in this executive order, student loans will now be handled by the Small Business Administration, which has had its staff cut by 40%. What can go right? Wreck It and Rob It. That was my I Said-It-Torial, and I'm GD Fenderson, certified forensic humorist, now with New Joke Technology and 13% more snark. Thank you for watching Critical Joke Theory, where our motto is, I purport you decide if you decide it right. If you enjoyed it, please like and share it. And please check out Done Way Past Funny on YouTube, Knob TV, and Spark TV. Also watch The Church of Last Resort streaming live on Sundays on YouTube at 9 a.m. Eastern. Feel free to check out my website at www.sogdfunny.com to access more of my content. Be safe out there, and don't feed the crazies. Critical Joke Theory with your host, GD Fenderson, certified forensic humorist. Now with New Joke Technology.